Hi, good evening. It's great to see everyone here today. So thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Joyce, and together with my colleagues, we run the StackX DevRel work here in GovTech. So before we start, let's run through some house rules that are on the screen right now. First, do note that this webinar is being recorded and we'll post the video on our developer portal and share the link later. We also ask that your questions be kept to the topics presented today to keep the session meaningful. Finally, please feel free to submit questions throughout the webinar via the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Kindly refrain from posting questions in the main chat as our speakers won't be able to take questions from there. You can also join us at our StackX Telegram channel to continue asking questions if you run out of time or you are a bit shy. So the link will be shared at the end of the session. And during the combined Q&A that we'll be having later as well, we'll grant you speaking privileges so you can unmute yourself and direct your questions to our speakers. So we just have a few things now to share before starting the program proper today. If you have not done so, we would like to invite you to join our StackX community. As part of our commitment to engage developers like yourselves more, GovTech formed the StackX community last year. You can scan the QR code that's on screen now to join our Meetup page. We publish the latest information on deep dive sessions with government and private sector professionals who share on a wide range of topics. We would also like to invite you to join us at our developer portal. The portal serves as a one-stop place to discover the products we've developed as well as the documentation that you can try. These include our API gateway and DevOps products, just to name a few. We also have a community page where we post recordings of past webinars and blogs by GovTech teams. So tonight's webinar recording will be shared there as well. As the developer portal is still in its beta phase, we ask for your patience that info is still being onboarded. So if you do have feedback, drop us a note via the link at the top of the page. And now to give a very brief overview of GovTech, we are over 2,500 strong, and our work can be broadly classified into three areas: products, services, cyber and governance. So under the product team, we have over 700 developers who implement products for WOG or whole of government and strategic national projects. We also have capability centers in the areas of DS and SIoT, to name a few. The product team also manages the WOG infrastructure from our move to commercial cloud, to data centers, to issuance of devices to all public sector officers. Next, the services group is the biggest of the three, making up more than half of GovTech. They play an important role in managing technology in over 60% of government agencies in Singapore. Finally, the other important group is cybersecurity and governance. We are actually the lead for cybersecurity in the government sector, and the Chief Information Security Officer sits in GovTech. To ensure that all the work we do is safe and secure, our governance group sets ICT policies across the government. So below are some projects that we have, products that we have developed and you would probably know. So Safe Entry, which locks access to public venues during this COVID-19 period. SingPass, which was developed close to 20 years ago and is Singapore's national digital identity used for access to most online government services. And also Supply Ally and Support Go Where, that our speakers will share more about later on in this webinar. So during this period, we also want to support the tech community, and we have close to 400 positions available in both temp and perm positions. You can just scan the QR code on the screen and it will take you to our careers page where you can view our open roles. So whether you're a software engineer, a DevOps engineer, business analyst, or any other expert, you'll be able to find some interesting openings there. And if you also know of any friends who may be keen or have been displaced during this period, do share this with them too. So finally, I'll briefly run through the program for this evening. Patricia, a GovTech lead UX designer, and her team will introduce us to Supply Ally, followed by a short Q&A. Next, the team from Support Go Where, Jeremy and Sheng, will share how they built a go-to support listing page during COVID-19 within just 1 week. This will be followed by the combined Q&A session that we mentioned earlier. So without further ado, may we invite Patricia to share, please.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, I hope you guys can all see my screen. So very privileged to be here talking about Supply Ally. So a brief introduction about myself. I am Patricia. You can call me Pat. I'm the product lead of Supply Ally and also a UX designer. So in Supply Ally, I lead a team of very passionate software engineers, quality engineers, and designers. They are also participating in this call today. So very happy to have them join me in this session. For the first 15 minutes, I'll just share with you briefly in terms of what Supply Ally is. And then we're going to open up the time for Q&A. And at that point, you can ask questions where the developers can actually join in to share technical questions that you have relating to this product in the system. So a quick introduction of Supply Ally. It is also known as SALLY. We internally coined this word because Supply Ally is really quite a mouthful to word. And sometimes people call it Supply Ally and different names to it. So we decided, why don't we just call it SALLY? And that's how we coined it. And it's a distribution ally that helps to digitalize the distribution process. So it's simple as that. And people asked, so how did Supply Ally get started? How was it started initially? To be honest, this picture will tell it all. It started with a phone call on April Fool's Day, and it's a phone call that's on fire. Why is that so? Because our director, Stephen Cole, he actually received this call from Ministry of Trade and Industry, calling him on April Fool and saying that, there is a need for this nationwide mass distribution exercise. Could GovTech and your team do something about it for us to launch this and to be able to do this exercise without going through the manual pen and paper method of logging down all the mass that's being distributed? So the question is, when exactly is the time for us to launch this? They said it's actually 5th of April, and thankfully, in a sense, a group of engineers already have developed an application that can be repurposed for this mass distribution. And that's how Supply Ally was born. So it was born on 5th of April, 2020. All right, talking about that, we are actually a very fairly new team, or very young. So if you look from the timeline, from the very beginning of our very first distribution, that is in April the 5th, we worked with MTI and also People's Association going through all the various CCs to distribute this reusable mask to the nation. 4.2 million masks was issued up till the point this campaign closes, which is end of the month. So we started then. And then subsequently, we decided, with Supply Ally, with this app that's already ready and it's been giving out items to beneficiaries, to people that's in need. So we actually partner with Engineering Good in around April to May period, where that's the time where circuit breaker was just announced, and a lot of students, especially lower income families, they do not have access to an internet laptop, and it's difficult for them to go through home-based learning, HBL at that point. So Engineering Good is in the business in the sense of a non-profit organization that actually giving out refurbished laptops to these needy families. And we partner with them to ensure that the supply that's given it actually meets the demands, so that one family or one child get one laptop and nothing beyond. So Supply Ally kind of helped to ensure that this is tracked and this is recorded. So that's in May. Subsequently, we started, then we continue in June. We started working with Community Development Council. We call them the CDC, also through PACCs to actually distribute CDC voucher booklets to households and families that are in need. So again, it was in the news around June period where the government was saying that to give out CDC vouchers to over 400,000 households, and that program actually campaign kick-started, and we are still ongoing and running it. It will continue to run until end of the year. So to date, we have already given more than 250K households with CDC voucher booklets, and that's with the use of Supply Ally SALLY app. Then, so it continues. So beyond, so we did. Beyond that, we did work with our parent company, our parent organization, Smart Nation, SNDGG, together with Silver Generation Office in AIC that actually went around to households of individuals, especially elderly, people that are digitally excluded, to give them this Trace Together tokens. So it was at a time where, we have the Trace Together app, but what about those that do not have a smartphone device with them? So the Trace Together token started, and Straits Times reported that as well. And then it was given to about 10,000 or more individuals with this token. So it was also with the use of Sally, and we partnered with them. And the final one, which only kickstarted very recently, and that is with Food from the Heart. So it was an engagement that we did with them to say that they are giving out hot meals to the elderlies or their beneficiaries around the Mountbatten area. So they started in onboarding around 20 beneficiaries, and is growing, and onboarding about 5 or more hawker stores at the beginning. It's going to onboard more people moving forward. So as of to date, we have already given out more than 70 meals and counting. So these campaigns that we have started since May, April 1 we have ended. So since May, June, July, and August, these are campaigns that we are concurrently running, and is still actively serving the community using this app. So the question people may be asking is that, then how is it that one app can actually run multiple distribution campaigns all at the same time? So if you go to your Google Play Store or your App Store, if you download Supply Ally, and if you open up the app, and if you do get access to it, you see that it's just one app. You don't have Supply Ally 1, Supply Ally 2, 3, 4 for different distribution campaigns. So how is it enabled to be able to run only one with multiple distribution campaigns? The use of cloud technologies enable us to do that. So it allows multiple development environments. We use a QR code, a QR login code to every individual that logs into a specific endpoint, a specific environment, for them to log onto that specific campaign that they are running and distributing the items for. So that is how we do it. Then another thing that comes along the line with it is that, yes, now that you tell me that everything is kind of similar, you have the different distribution campaigns and running on the one app. So how different is it, or how is it the same? So the picture I think is very apt, because I'm a coffee drinker. I like my kopi to be shu shu dai. So different people have got different likes and dislikes, or their taste of coffee, or if you're a tea drinker. So some like latte, some like more milk and stuff. So how do we then cater for different ones and different partners and organizations that have different needs and different wants for the app? So well, we stick true to our DNA. So there are 3 things that is the same across all the distribution campaigns. And I'm just going to walk you through quickly what are these 3 things. The first one is the app, no matter which distribution campaign you're on, it always identifies you as an individual or beneficiary, if you're a legit person or not. So whether is it your NRIC, or whether is it for Food from the Heart, every beneficiary is given a QR card, a card that has a QR code. So it's not an NRIC barcode, it's a QR code. So we can identify them as well. As long as the organization that we work with, the partnering agency tells us, how do you identify the legitimacy of this person, then that's how the app will identify. The second thing is we keep a record of individuals' collections within a given time period. So that is when, for example, you're given 1 ice cream a week. The following week, you can collect 1 ice cream again. So the count actually resets itself. So there is a way for us to set this policy, as so we call it internally, like policy to determine how long an individual is given an item, and for how many times the individual can be given. Then the last thing is notifies the giver on the individual's eligibility and past transactions. So we started recently, everything is recent because it's just a few months. So we kind of started in around May, June period, where we started to track the items that is being given out. So we noticed that there are agencies that we work with that require these items to be tracked. They can be of monetary value, for example, CDC vouchers, or they could be something related to something that we're giving out to the person, like for example, TT token. So we do keep a record of the serial number or the things that is given out to the individuals for some of the things. So it is to notify the individual's eligibility and then the past transaction. That's something that the app has, and it notifies the one that is giving out at the screen itself. So as a receiver, if you ask about the journey, so what as a receiver, if I know government is giving me some good stuff or some things that I'm entitled to collect, so what happens? I mean, what do I then do? You then need to bring in your identity card, whatever it is that has been identified, and then whether is it you collect using your NRIC or collect using like food from the heart QR login code. I mean a QR code. It all depends. So that's all you need to bring, your identity. And then as a giver, when you get logged into the app, there's only a few steps that you need to do. Firstly, you need to scan the identity of the person that presented the card, and then you need to, if the person is an eligible person, what they'll be seeing, the next screen will be the quota that they will be capturing the details of the item that they're giving out. And then once you checked out, it will be redeemed and it will be recorded and tracked in the system. So should the entitlement be 1 ice cream per week, today when you come back again a second time this week, you will see an error page that says that, oh, you have already collected your ice cream 2 days ago, or you have already collected yesterday, something like that. So it will give notifications to the giver through the app whether has this been used before. Okay, so well, after all that I said, all these things, it tells me that the passion kind of led us here. Yes, it started with a COVID-19 initiative where we started with mass distribution, repurposing an original thing to do mass distribution, and then evolving to where we are. So indeed, with this team of people, I mean, passion has led us here, but there are much more work to do. I mean, it's just like climbing the wall, right? Rock climbing. There is always one step after another, and sometimes it gets really difficult depending on the terrain you're on. So there are still opportunities, and it also tells us that the team also needs to continue to work harder. So the opportunities that we have uncovered through, I mean, the good thing is also because we have worked with many partners, and we are able to then reach out to them and ask them some of the things. Has it been working for them? Has it been difficult for them to use? So how might we then empower, there are some opportunities that we uncover, like how might we empower the user to appeal when the individual's entitlement limit is reached? So this is one thing that we uncover, and then we realize that appeal is something that is important to some distribution campaigns. Like we want to be able to give empowerment to the person giving out the item, to allow the individual to collect it again. And how can we track that in the system? So we actually enabled that and worked on that feature, and we have got that ready to be rolled out in the coming month. And then we also found out that some of the error messages or feedback that's given from the app to the user is not so intuitive. It's a little hard to understand sometimes. It's a little more technical driven than user driven. So what we did is we did a revamp of these messages to help them to overcome simple issues while using the app. So this is another opportunity that we have worked on and have completed. So again, in the coming month, we'll be able to see all these changes in the app with partnering agencies that work with us. The last two is something that we're working on. So I talked about how people get logged into various environments through a login code, right? So that we can run multiple campaigns at the same time. How might we improve this login process? The code that you log in, you can actually lose it, or the administrator that is supposed to partner, the sponsor organization admin will then need to manage thousands of QR login codes for the team. It will be a little painful for them. So we are rethinking and redesigning how to improve that login process. And the final thing is also how can we then also show some statistics on the app itself. This has been something that PA users, many different ones have been asking us for, and this is something that we're looking into it. So continue to work harder, more opportunities to come for us to grow in terms of a team, and also in terms of the product and its roadmap. So with that, I just want to thank you for your time. I mean, we'll open up for questions really soon. So if you realize that, all these things that I mentioned about the various campaigns and stuff on Supply Ally, and something that is simple to use, and you think that you're a suitable user of Supply Ally, feel free to contact me. This is my email address. You can write me an email, or write me an email. Basically, it's just email there. All right, so that's about it. And then if you want to read more, these are some of the links that are available. So if you just Google Supply Ally, you actually see some of the articles and everything written about it as well. So with that, this is actually the last slide that I have. I have not had a chance to see all the Q&A and stuff yet. So, right.
Thanks for your sharing, Patricia. So before we open the floor to questions, please don't be shy to give your questions for the team in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. I just have a question that I'm quite curious about. So you mentioned about the overwhelming demand, especially for the distribution of masks when Sally first started. So what were some of the ways that the team handled this sort of overwhelming demand, or were any functions actually built into the app to help on the ground staff, for instance?
Okay, thank you for asking the question. So I have Zhao that is on the call. He's our technical lead for the team, and I think he's best to address this question. So he was there at the time of mass distribution. So Zhao, are you there?
Yes. Hi,
okay.
folks. Yeah. So we, as Pat mentioned, we developed the app in a rapid time, basically. What we did was we had this repurposed app that was sitting in AWS, and we're helping the app, testing the app for some other purposes. And the app was actually just nice. It was built using AWS Lambda. For the tech folks, you know what that is, and that is serverless architecture. And rapidly prototyped it out and used React Native to deploy it out. And so all we need to do was to basically do a facelift to the application and roll out within 4 days from April Fool's Day. Yeah. So that's how we did it. And of course, being serverless, enables us to scale up. And if we needed more capacity, all we did was send a message to AWS and say, hey, we need more capacity. And that's how we roll. And we just hold on our horses and look at the metrics for the whole day and make sure that our system was up.
Yeah, thanks, Zhao. That really answered my question. So now we actually have another question from one of our attendees by Nur Muhammad. So I will post this to both Patricia and Zhao. What are some of the biggest problems that you faced as a designer in this project, and how did you overcome such challenges?
Okay, so I do wear 2 hats, but in this Supply Ally hat, I'm not really the designer. I'm not wearing the designer hat. I'm more wearing the product lead hat. But we do have designers in the team as well. So challenges that we face is actually, if I can just answer right now, as to what I know, it's very time tight, because we are always running towards campaigns, and then deployments, production. So it's very fast, and being very fast paced, it's very difficult for us to really truly understand how each operational staff is working, and how individuals that's using the app, what kind of pain points you have, and then go and find out, doing this deep dive research and stuff. So I think a lot of it is time, but the good part of it is I think we learn through iterative design. So even though the app is already on the hands of others, we do deployments quite frequently after we change or make changes to the app after learning about the pain points. So we are kind of doing some catch-up work now. Our designer on the ground is actually doing that, understanding the ground a little bit more.
Thanks, Patricia. So we have another question from CJ Lim. So in the current version of the Sally app, is it possible for users to specify a different number of frequencies or items for different beneficiaries during the onboarding process?
Okay, yes, I can share first, and then if my team wants to add on, they can. So yes, they can specify different number of items and for how long a period. So these are two things that can easily change. Interestingly, recently one of our partner from Food for the Heart, he just asked me, he said, what if I were to change this food credit? If instead of 10 food credits, I give 20, how long does it take? So I said, oh, it takes 1 minute. It depends on whether the developer is asleep or awake. So it's quite fast if they are available. So yeah, maybe anyone want to add on, like Ziyang or?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, we knew that we have other distribution
Oh, I think Zuyang is
design.
a bit
breaking
cut
up.
off. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, it's good now.
Yeah, so it's good. So we design our app to be supportive of multiple distributions. So we, as a developer, we design, development team design it from a way that, okay, some things are configurable and some things are just the way the system handles itself. So things like number of days you want to refresh the policy, like what Pat mentioned, is something that we can configure. And slowly we are actually just, as we go along, we do our bi-monthly deployments. We actually are slowly tweaking the app to make it more and more supportive of more distributions. Yeah. But the users don't see it, but we do it in the background.
Yeah, actually, I do we have time for more questions?
Yes, we do. I was about to pose some more questions to the team as well. Okay, so Mark actually wants to commend the team for the great service. So he would like to ask also, what is the product's vision and where does the team see Supply Ally in 2 years' time?
Okay, so that I can answer. So generally, when we first started this team, we kind of got together and then we have been placed together to run this distribution campaigns, right? And initially, it was really just for COVID. To help support the community, especially during a time of giving during COVID season. So our thought is, how can we then grow this product further and then having a longer term vision? And then we did come together and discuss and talking to various ones within the team. Actually, we do really have interest in the social needs of the community. So government is always in the, in a way of giving. So always giving. So I think that the Sally comes in place to help as an aid in this area of giving, and especially when it begins to touch the lives of the social community, socially in the communities, that's where we think that the meaning is there, and that's where we will strive towards. So like I said, there's still a lot of things to be done. So given the 2 years, I'm sure that there are more stuff that we can do to improve further.
Thanks for the really inspiring answer. So, well, Yo Shan, yes, he has another question also. So to the team, is it possible to share a bit more about how does the team rethink the way error codes should be displayed to end users?
Okay, so this one, okay, actually I should get the UX designer here to answer, but she's not a panelist. Okay, so anyway, we initially the app, because it was such short time, so we kind of the quotes is just very related to technical terms like the environment is down and so on and so forth. People don't really quite understand what exactly it is. So every time what happens is we got to know that errors is really not very intuitive until during production support, people will throw us errors and we ourselves don't even know, in a sense, sometimes what does this error pertains to? What exactly is it related to? So that's how we got started. And what we did is we got our developers to actually comb through the codes and to pull out all the errors. So all the error messages, and then the designers and the content, working with the content writer to actually look into all the way that how our tone of the error should be. How should we be consistently applied across all? Should it be specific enough or can it be generalized? So the key objective is it enough to self-help for people to know what exactly is wrong? Yeah.
Okay, understand. Okay, I think that we have time for maybe another question. So Raymond would like to also say kudos to the team and would want to know what is the most memorable experience that the team had.
Okay, so I'll share. Memorable for me. Okay, so generally, really, we don't really meet up the team face to face. because when we first started this project, we were all sitting at our homes and meeting each other virtually. So it's very difficult to get the team initially together, and then the synergy and stuff. But it was after we go through a few rounds of, late nights and then getting through things and meeting roadblocks and having problems and solving them together that those are memorable stuff. And I think I personally, I feel that we do start, the dynamics of the team is really good now, that we get to know each other a little bit more. So the memorable through the tough, when we go through trenches, in a sense. That's for me.
Thanks, Patricia. So, okay, I think that let's leave some of the other questions that we have for the Q&A segment, combined Q&A segment later. So we would like to welcome Jeremy and Sheng from the Support GoWare team to speak. Yeah, Jeremy, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I hope everyone can hear us clearly. My name is Jeremy and I'm a product manager in GovTech. With me today, I have Sheng, who is our user experience designer, and he belongs to this team called the Digital Design and Development team. Externally, you might not heard of us, but you probably interact with some of the applications that we have developed. Things like Moments of Life, which recently changed name to Life SG. It's a portal for citizens to discover the different government services that you can do. We also have apps like My Legacy, whereby we help citizens plan out the last few precious moments of their loved one. And we also develop internal products like the whole of government analytics tool that allows us to validate how our digital service work and some of the feedback system that we have. So today, we'll dive a bit deeper on the work that we've done for the COVID. And in the past 6 months, we have been working on the GoWare family series. Some of you might have already interacted with it. I think Pat shared about Supply Ally, about mass distribution. On the front end side, we helped create this app called Mass GoWare, where you can go there and find the location to collect the mask. There's also the Flu GoWare website, whereby you are able to find the PHPC certified clinic to see a doctor. And very recently, we also work on the polling station during the general election to understand what's the different queue level like in the various areas. And some of you might even remember there's a site where you can play around the different design of the SG Together pack. That's one of the things that we are working on. So one of the things that I want to highlight here is that we are not just a team designing product, we are here to design experience also. And I remember when we first started with the Mass GoWare design, we are working very closely with PA, and we discovered that because things are happening so fast, the grassroots effort, they put together and create their own kind of poster and then post it on the different lift lobby. And we want to eliminate this kind of very tedious work, and we also help PA to create the poster generator that right now you see at the different HDB flats. So today I'm going to share another GoWare product with you called the Support GoWare. For those who have never seen this page, it's a platform for you to discover the different grants that citizens can apply during COVID-19 period. And the idea of this came about way back in March when when we all go to the circuit breaker, and then for the whole of government, we came up with the Singapore budget to help Singaporeans in need to find the right scheme and the right grants to apply for. And very soon after the Singapore budget announcement, the resilience budget announcement, we did see that a lot of Singaporeans came together and then share the different information of the grants across social media. And you even see some of them created like the Google Sheet and spread it around. And that is where our team thought that why not make this more official, create a portal for citizens to go there and understand what are the schemes and grants available for citizens. And that's where we started working on the idea. And if we, like the regular Singaporeans out there, we are also looking at the official government website to discover the grants that are available in Singapore, with the added benefit that we outreach to the organization who are giving out the schemes. For example, MSF, MCCY, and from there we collate the most relevant information that we can gather, and then synthesize the information into a bite-sized chunk and then put it on the website itself. The other thing that we did during the planning was also to utilize some of the experience that we have built for the mask go wear and flu go wear. And we want to build this fast. We want to come up with our first minimal viable product. And with that, we took the same design as well as the operational learning that we have, and we revamped the supply go wear to be like mask go wear and flu go wear. The other thing that we added on the site is also the analytics tools as well as a feedback tool to help us not just understand how the site works, but also give us a channel with the citizen to understand whether this is something that they really need. And lo and behold, when we first launched the product, this is the page itself. We made a very conscious decision to make it very easy with all the applications in one page. And we split into 3 kinds of categories. The first one is where you can find out all the information and link to apply the grants. The other one is the auto-inclusion grants that you don't have to do anything, but if you're curious, you can find out more from there. And when we launched the site, within about 1 to 1.5 weeks, what we see is a good spike in the traffic, and that helped us validate that there's really a need for such a website to exist. In fact, having analytics on the website serves 2 purposes. The first one is to validate the idea that we have, and the second one is to ensure that we are able to cater enough resources to support the traffic that is coming in. And one of the things that we observe from the different GoWare website is that a lot of Singaporeans are using their mobile phone, and that tells us that we are already in the mobile first society, and whatever that we design have to think of mobile first. And the other important things is that we also get a lot of grassroots promotions and word of mouth. And we are fortunate enough that our MP pick up the development of Support GoWare as well as various social groups to share this to the rest of the Singapore population. And that helps us grow the brand name of Support GoWare. So sharing with this, for the next few slides, we have a learning point that we would like to share with you. So let me share the first one, and then Sheng will share the next 2 with you. As a product manager, when we build our product, it's always to find the right things to solve. And this is something that we realize there's a demand to it. And we want to put our foot in, and we reuse whatever that we have learned and built to create our first MVP and use analytics tool to help us validate our idea. And the last important thing is that it's always good to have a feedback channel with your user so that you are able to improve yourself, which I think Sheng will bring us through on some of the learning points that we have discovered while interacting with our citizens. Sheng.
Right. Thank you, Jeremy. So while we were able to launch Support GoWare quickly, we did it initially only in English, as we did not want to delay the launch due to the time required for translation. Almost immediately after the launch, we received feedback through Woga sentiments, like on the need for multi-language support. So this was when our own team members stepped up and helped, and we managed to update the site subsequently in the other 3 official languages. As you can see here, this is the actual Excel sheet that we use to translate. And we also received other feedback regarding citizens either not receiving adequate response from agencies or not being able to find inquiry details to follow up. And so we started a small customer support team to help triage and respond to citizens, providing them with the relevant contact info to follow up with the agencies. This is also what we've done for the other GoWare series of sites. A lesson we learned here from attending to the citizens' feedback is that customer support is part of the user experience in building digital products, and it is even more crucial in times of crisis. This is especially so during the pandemic when citizens themselves cannot travel down as easily to the community centers or the social service offices to inquire in person. And the relatives and friends who would normally help those in need were also initially during phase 2 limited to helping them over the phone. So it was clear to us that every bit of support we can provide to clarify their doubts and allow them to sort of self-serve can help them a lot. From the feedback that came in after the first batch of schemes that were open, we noticed that some citizens had their applications rejected. Now this brings us to the Eligibility Checker, a feature that we had in mind to build from the start, which we think that it can help citizens filter more accurately for schemes that they actually can qualify for. So after we launched the MVP site, we immediately started working on the Eligibility Checker by tapping on our Live SG team's previous experience in building the family support calculator on the Moments of Life app. And we started by identifying and sorting through the schemes the common qualifying criteria, such as citizenship, age, employment status, household income, members, number of household members, property ownership, type, and value, as you can see here. And we also went on to create filtering questions grouped into different buckets so that they could be answered in an order based on the visitor's citizenship, starting from questions for everyone and ending with questions for Singaporeans and PRs, as you can see here. For example, for schemes with qualifying criteria based on household income and property type, the corresponding questions were asked only at the end, as only Singaporeans and PRs are required or are able to answer these questions. The aim here is to be able to return accurate eligibility results in as few questions as possible for the visitors, depending on their demographic or their situation. And after some testing to ensure that all the schemes could be filtered accurately, we updated the Support GoWare with the Eligibility Checker. And this is how it looks. Basically, visitors can find the checker widget on the landing page, click on it, and be directed to answer up to 7 simple questions, such as what is your citizenship, what is the nature of work, how are you affected by COVID, what is your total monthly household income, what type of property do you own, and what is the annual property value of the house you own or live in. And when they have completed, we will be able to filter the number of support schemes that is applicable for them. Simple. The lesson we learned here from building the Eligibility Checker was that we have to balance the ease of use with the filtering accuracy, as our objective is to help increase the overall conversion rate. I think with around 20 to 40 support schemes listed on Support GoWare at any point in time, it was not practical for us to factor in all the requirements of each and every scheme, because doing so will require us to design questions that cover only one or a few schemes, and that will lengthen the questionnaire to the more schemes we have to cover, which can frustrate users instead. Yeah. So after we launched, we saw that around 1 in 5 visits to Support GoWare use the Eligibility Checker when we first added it. And later, when new schemes under the Fortitude budget was announced in late May and then added to Support GoWare, we also saw a spike. The usage of the checker stabilized at around 1 in 10 visits after mid-June, probably due as there were lesser new schemes added onto the site. After mid-June, we actually also see a slight increase in return visits. Return visitors are likely more familiar with the schemes and are less reliant on the checker. But sadly, this increase in return visits can also mean that there may be many citizens who still need more help. So today, Support GoWare remains live and updated with any new government support schemes, which those who are still in need can apply for. With every new scheme to be added, we will assess if the criteria requires any modification to our Eligibility Checker or the answer choices to those questions. There's also been discussions with a few government agencies to explore if Support GoWare concept can be replicated for individual agencies to use. And also if there's a potential for Support GoWare to eventually extend beyond the COVID-19 context and scope to cover other forms of government offered schemes. All these will require more further user research. And I think that's about it. Thank you. Visit Support GoWare. And please feel free to inform us if you find that we are missing out on any support, government support schemes on our site.
Thanks, Jeremy and Sheng, for this sharing. So as always, please feel free to post some questions to our speakers via the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. So I guess I'll start the ball rolling. So one question that I'm really curious about is that because Support GoWare aims to be a one-stop portal for people to seek help easily. So are there any future plans to include links for checking on the status of applications or even making appeals?
I'll probably answer that. So the question is, will we support like checking of status as well as appeal?
Yes.
We constantly look for what's the pain point that our citizens are facing. Then we will try to solve it through product prioritization. So we did think of these questions before, especially on appeal side. That is from the interaction that we have gotten from citizens is something that is very important. And if you realize that there's a smiley face on the page, and if you type anything inside, we do have a support team to look through all the questions that is being asked, and then we send it to the relevant agency to answer those questions. So that's one way to solve the appeal or questions that citizens might have. In terms of developing a full-fledged appeal system, I think we'll build step by step. So this is already a first step. Looking forward, there might be very similar needs from other agencies. So that's where we probably could extend to the different agency and then build a more unified product that everyone can use.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. So okay, let's move on to the questions that our attendees have for the Support GoWare team. So from Yas, did you conduct user acceptance tests? And if so, what was the approach taken by the team?
I'll probably share my experience a bit, and then Jiaxuan can share a bit more after that. So yeah, we do our own user acceptance tests internally. Like any product that we develop, we always run the different mock-ups to make sure that things are working fine within our team. And then we also have external team to help us do user acceptance tests. In fact, as a government, we have to do our own security tests as well as penetration tests to ensure that it's secure enough and usable enough to be on the public. The other thing that I guess a lot of people always forget is that once we build a product and that's the end, but that's not true for us because after we put the product out there, we always monitor the usage. We build our own funnel to understand the conversion rate. And if we identify areas that are not converting well, that's where we try to improve and iterate and launch the next version of it. So that's my perspective. I believe Jiaxuan has more to share on this.
Yeah, so I think we work with the different agencies down to the level of the even content that is that we have. So basically, if you go to the agency website, you will see a whole chunk of word that citizens probably find it harder to process. So extracting out the relevant things to keep the site lean was effort by our team, and also checking with the agency to ask them, we have extracted to this, is this good enough? Is this clear enough for you? So that we will not mislead the citizens if we cut the description to too short, but at the same time, we also want to sort of channel in the right the citizens who actually are applicable to click on and try to apply to lower the failure rate so to speak. So on that end, actually, before we even approve to list each of the schemes, we already check through with multiple parties to ensure that the content is correct. Yep.
Thanks, Jeremy and Sheng. I hope that answered your question. Yeah. So I guess a similar question that is given by one of our other attendees is also on the topic of support. Is there a separate support team per app? Maybe the support GoWare team can answer that first, and then does the dev team actually do all this support?
I'll probably answer that on the support itself. COVID hit us very sudden. And when we started building the Mask GoWare, actually every one of us are doing the support. Even our senior director who is answering the different emails that came in, and we keep replying to them. And that's where we realized that we do need a team to do support. But before we have a team, ourselves is good enough to answer the citizens' inquiry. But what's important is to really collate everything together. So we built a dashboard first, putting all the questions on a live dashboard and looking through it, and then try to answer those questions as much as possible. Things that we don't understand, then we move it to the agency to follow up with the citizen. Along the way, we realized that as the GoWare family grew, we do need a dedicated team to do it. And we start building our own dog food. We form our own internal team first, trying to understand the process of running operations. And then slowly but surely, we add in more team members. We hired more engineers and people who knows the product, as well as customer success team members in to do the full-time operation for all the GoWare family. So that's how we start with having a support and ops team for us.
Understand. So, okay, I think we have time for some more questions. So we have one from Xiuling who is asking for products like what you mentioned, which require a multi-language translation. Would the team actually also approach a translation department or MCI's translation department to ensure as much accuracy as possible?
I think for the quick turnaround that we wanted to achieve, we were very fortunate that our team members actually spoke and understood the relevant languages, the official languages. So we took it upon ourselves to quickly translate. But I think at some point of time, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, we did also sort of help, pro bono help from SPH. So that we get some quality control in rather than just us team members trying to figure it out. Because some of the terms that were covered, that the description covers are actually quite technical. And your normal speaking, even if you're fluent in Chinese or what, you might not know the right terms to translate them. Yeah, so Jeremy, anything?
Yeah, so we did approach external party to help us do translation. Over here, we do need to balance between coming out with the grant information as well as the translation. So if you want perfect translation, it takes a lot of time. But as a team ourselves, we are able to do a basic translation and then we pass it to the expert to do it for us. So it's a two-step process, and we do employ both ourselves and the external team to help us on this.
Okay, thanks very much. So we can have another question as well. So in such a short period of time, this is a question by Mayan, by the way, in such a short period of time from the development to the implementation of Support GoWare, how did you ensure the security part of this entire product?
We have a team of hackers, or rather our own team members who understand security very well. So they help us do all the penetration tests as well as black box testing to ensure that we meet all the requirements that our government spelled out. We do have a very thick user manual that we have to follow and adhere to. So if you join the government, I can share with you the document next time. And all the products that we develop has to go through this stringent testing before we launch it. So that's how we ensure that we don't just develop product fast, but we also develop a product that's fast and secure for people to use.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I think we have time for just one more question before we start the combined Q&A. So this is a question from, let's see, from Yi-Ling. How long did it take to launch Support Go Where? 1 week, correct me if I'm wrong. And for the MVP, was there any user research conducted with citizens or maybe potential users of the app? Of Support Go Where?
I think from when we first had the idea popped up in our Telegram to when we actually launched, it was, I went back, I didn't believe that it was 1 week. Jeremy told me it was 1 week, and I went back to check, and it was actually slightly more than 1 week, maybe 8 days when we managed to launch it. So 8 days that it took for collating all the scheme information and trimming it down and putting it out there, checking with the agencies. Was there any user research done? Honestly, not much. We had our prototype, we got our team members to test it, got them to show it to probably their family members, could you use it, and that was about it. But I think we monitored more of the feedback that came in immediately in order to improve certain things. Yeah, so yep, that's about it. I think because of the time, it was a bit difficult to go through any extensive research also. And we also have feedback from the agencies to tell us that maybe certain wording we could change, because the citizens who came to them told them that, they thought it was referring to something else. Yeah, so feedback from multiple sources actually helped.
Thanks very much. So I think let's move on. Thanks, of course, to all our speakers for sharing during the presentation as well as during the individual Q&A segments. So now we would like to come to the combined Q&A segment where you can ask some of your really burning questions. And just to let everyone know, we are trying something out. So we would like to actually let you speak and direct the questions to our speakers. So we also do request that you keep to relevant questions if you are have your speaking privileges enabled. And do feel free to use the raise hand function if you haven't typed any questions in the Q&A, but you have something that you really want to ask. So, okay, maybe I'll start off with one of the questions from Zhao, which I think is relevant for both the Sally team and the Support Go Where team. So he says, thanks for the presentation and great work on creating all these valuable apps. So kudos to both teams. And Zhao wants to know whether, how did you guys get into the entire UX field and product management? And I would like to know more about these two areas. Maybe Patricia can start off.
Okay, hello, thanks for raising the question. How do you guys get into UX and product management? Because of COVID, no. So generally, no, I've been in UX for a while. For me personally, I started in another place as a design thinking coach. I started with design thinking approach, and that's how I got into the field of the UX. And then coming into GovTech, because there is when we are in GovTech, it's not just a consultancy. We really get to do end-to-end delivery of apps to the end users or the product to the end user. So that's how I kind of got into it. It's through learning. I'm also I pivoted from my previous career and then into UX. So yeah, if that's what you want to know, maybe just taking on opportunities when it comes. Yeah, that's for me.
Sheng, as a fellow UX designer, do you have anything to add?
So I started from front-end design, doing a bit of front-end development, so not so much of user research and experience, but as I was handling my clients, doing like smaller websites or projects, one thing that came to me always is that the client's requirements are sometimes not really realistic. And as, uh, uh, as they are my clients, I have to listen to them because they have the domain knowledge. But without any UX research and proof, I can't go to them and say this is not right. So I looked at my career and I needed more validation to speak up about product decisions. So that's where I saw UX as the natural thing to go to that is closest to having a decision, have a say in, about the design back to the product owners. Yeah, that's why I went into user research, user experience.
Then for Jeremy's side, do you have any thoughts about product management, or how did you get into this field?
For me, I think I like developing product. I was an engineer before. So after graduation, we formed our own company and try to do things. And initially, very naively, we thought that we build anything and then people just use it. But it turns out that no one is using our product. And what's important is to, at that point of time, there's no real term of what product management means. But what it essentially means as a product manager is to really find the right problem to solve. And at that point of time, we are searching for we have a solution and we are trying to find problem to solve using that solution. But that's not the right way to do. And then the more I learn how to evolve our own product, and that's where I pick up more of the knowledge from the industry. And soon after, I joined GovTech as a product manager, and things became very exciting because right now, from running your own company to joining a bigger organization, you have the resource of your user experience, designer, your engineers who can really level up what you are thinking, really helping you to validate your idea. And that's how I became a product manager in GovTech. And I think I'm fortunate enough to be in a team that are very motivated and very knowledgeable in what they are doing. So just a shout out, if you want to be a product manager, just join GovTech. We are pretty good.
Okay, thank you for sharing. So now I would like to direct the time to Ko Chin An. I can allow you to speak now. So would you like to pose your question to the Sally team?
Hi, good evening to all. Both the Sally team and the OM teams understand that you all had very little time to put everything together, so that was really a good job. Just want to know what are some of the things you have done differently if you had, like, say, more time, say 2 weeks or a month. Thank you.
Maybe I'll go ahead first. I think if we would have more time, then there would have been a lot that we could have, we can possibly do, like, to uncover the ground a little bit more, understanding before jumping into a solution, to understand what exactly are the you know, from user perspective, the person using it, and then you know, like I shared earlier, some of the things that we could have done a little bit more before jumping in. But if time is not on our side, then we probably have to do it iteratively as we build the app. So given more time, we can do more tests, work through it a little bit more. Yeah, so that would be my answer.
So would the support GoWare team like to jump in as well to answer this question too?
From my perspective, I guess there is no more time or less time developing a product because you always work with constraints. In fact, I think if given more time, we might not have a better product. Precisely because of the crunch time, we have to come up with something to validate our idea and putting things out there for people to use. And that is very important to us because our end goal is not really to launch a product, but it's to create a product that people really use. So I guess more time comes in when we are running the product. We are trying to see how we can improve even further. So like Zhao shared in his segment, along the way, we do discover that filtering of the grants are very important for citizens. And that's where we jump in and develop new features to really fit this need. So to us, or rather to me, time is really a constraint that plays well in our strength. So Jiasheng probably can add more on that also.
I think one thing that we would have liked to improve, and it's still a conversation that we have, is our ability to translate quickly. So just now mentioned that do we send the content to another party to translate for us? But what we find out is that actually when it comes to government grants and description and terms, a lot of the terms used are repeated, and there's actually no need to double the repeat effort of translating again and again similar terms. So what we are exploring right now is what we didn't have time to explore or dive in proper is, are there any translation softwares that can help cut down the amount of time for every new scheme that comes in? If the description already has words that we previously have translated in all the languages, that would have cut down our time to deliver the new schemes, to put the new schemes up on the site. Yeah, so this is a problem across all Go websites or all our products actually in DQ, where we increasingly require translation. Yeah, so if we could make our translation work more efficient, I think that's one thing that we want to do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now we have another question from Chia-Wei. I'm going to allow you to speak now. So would you like to pose the question to our speakers? Chia-Wei, if you are online, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, yeah. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, I'm Zhao. Yeah, so my question would be that, given that at this point in time, Support GoWare is very largely centered towards the individual citizens, right? Are there plans to incorporate other government support into the portal as well? So this includes things like maybe job support, even enterprise level, or how we help SMEs and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So the question is, are there plans to support even beyond citizen, going to business or even job?
Yes.
That's a very good answer. In fact, we do have our sister team called the Go Business team, and they manage all the grants that support the businesses. So if you are a business owner, feel free to go to gobusiness.gov.sg, and that's where you can discover grants. We also have other ministries that provide job support. In fact, if you want to upskill yourself, you can visit those sites. And if you go to our Support GoWare or any GoWare website, we do have a menu that link to them, and you can explore more over there. Being an individual or even a business owner, or someone who just want to improve your skill set.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answered your question. So we have another question now from Boon Chong. Boon Chong, I'm going to allow you to speak as well. Yes. So you can start by asking your questions to our speakers. This is for the Sally team, by the way.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Boon Chong here. My question was, I think there was a really short time for supply elite team, extra as I guess the Support GoWare team. How do you start conceptualizing on day zero? I know after recovering from the shock, yeah, so short time.
Okay, I think it's best for Zui Yang or Ima on the call. Maybe Ima, you want to go ahead and answer?
Hi, okay. I'll try to kind of walk through some of the key factors that we thought about. So when we received the news that we actually had to create this Supply Ally app, the only thing we know about was it was going to be a nationwide distribution, and we were going to distribute masks. There was no other info that could be given when the engineers asked for it. So we had to kind of think outside the box. So we had to think about like, how do we actually, so one factor we thought of is we don't know how many people will be using the Supply Ally app to give out the mask. So how do we ensure a form of authorization an authentication that is actually able to scale with the volunteer efforts on the ground, because we don't want groups to actually gather when people face issues trying to redeem their mask. That was how the QR login came about. The second one was actually speed, which we were thinking, which was what are the essential steps and what are the most basic thing that you need to do to show that this is a valid person coming to collect the mask. So it kind of formed the backbone of how simple it is to kind of use Sally to kind of track distributions for individuals. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yes, I happen to be a user, of course, of Sally actually, and I like to compliment the team. I thought it was quite a good product to use for the first wave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Boon
Thanks
Chong.
too.
Okay, so now we have another question from Coral. So I will give you speaking privileges now. Yep. So Coral, you may pose your question to our speakers.
Hi, I'm just curious, how does GovTech do the collaboration in a situation of COVID where the team members do not meet each other? So could you share what tools have been found to be useful for virtual collaboration?
Maybe the Support GoWare team can start answering your question first.
What we're using now. And a lot of texting, a lot of sharing on documents or document sharing tools. Yeah, basically to put all our ideas or our ways to do things more efficiently together. Yeah.
So maybe the Sally team can also chime in here.
Okay, so for us, we work in a more agile manner. So we do have some agile ceremonies. So we do put up our stuff in Kanban through a collaborative tool. We use Notion for it actually. So the team will look at the backlog and we will prioritize them, and developers will move them into doing, and then code merging, testing, ready for review. So there is a structured way of doing things. But of course, the board itself is not enough. It still requires a lot of communication. We go through, we have a Slack communication channels where the developers will have a community to communicate, and then we will have different levels of communication and pair programming and stuff being done to onboard newcomers, especially new hires that have never met us in person. I think that's the most challenging part. Yeah, so video conferencing and stuff kind of help us to get used to it. Right now we are pretty used to working from home actually.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answered your question too. So for Jeremy from Support GoWare, we have another question from Yas for you. I will give speaking privileges now. Yep. Okay, Yas, you are on. Hi, Yas. Okay. Well, in the meantime, maybe I'll just read out the question first. So this is directed to Jeremy. Yas says that I just started my career in product 2 weeks ago. So do you have any advice for me to fast track learning, and and any other advice that you have besides attending webinars, of course, like StackX?
I guess it depends on the kind of skill set that you have. What I find very important is to really understand the user experience, design process, the engineering, some of the engineering term that helps you to better communicate with your team members. And for your own self as a product manager, I guess the other thing that you can learn right now is to understand how to validate hypothesis, come up with hypothesis, validate your hypothesis, and then use data to show proof that certain things work or certain things doesn't work, because data is very neutral, and opinion, usually you can use data to win over opinion. through stakeholders. When they ask you, hey, you should do A because I think it's right, you can use data to counteract with that. So I guess as a product manager, that's something, a good skill set to learn for your career, regardless on which level you are at.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. I hope that answered your question, yes. So we have time for a few more questions. Maybe I'll let Terence start to ask his question about as the use for Sally is expanding rapidly and whether there is anything to do about cost. So Terence, you are on. Okay, so in the meantime, so Terence is asking, as the use for Sally is expanding rapidly, is the cost of using AWS Lambda versus EC2 a consideration moving forward?
Okay, this one I'll get Zhao to help to answer this.
Hi. So yeah, we did from the get-go, we actually considered the cost, and we did all our calculations, checking through the expected cost, and we realized that okay, campaigns run for a duration, right? Especially during COVID. Like for example, the mask was a month, and CDC vouchers is extended period, a few months, over a year. So we did our calculations, and we did like check the amount of memory use, charge to AWS. So I think all in all, we look at our cost. I think we are good to go. Yeah, I mean compared to say EC2, then we had to do a lot more management, and I think the serverless really help us to scale rapidly when we need to. And say for example, half the time if people are outside office hours or outside distribution hours, then there's actually no cost there. So we did our math already. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we have Amos to ask his question on public cloud. So Amos, you are on. Okay, let me read it out for you, Amos. So Amos is asking, how did you get approval to use public clouds like AWS? Because to his knowledge, security is very tight and government computers are separated from the internet. So to the two teams, please share how you managed to convince senior leadership who say that public clouds are not secure.
Okay, I want to say that we are still very secure, even though we are on the AWS, so there's no one. And then I'll have Zhao to answer this specifically because it has something related to the security aspect and the data related stuff. Yeah.
So if you go to our GovTech website and you search on anywhere basically on government or commercial cloud or GCC, we have provisions for the government to go onto the cloud environment. Of course, we do follow all the data management practices as well as how we deploy secure services. And just to add on, actually how we develop Sally is we don't actually store your NRIC on our servers. Hard to believe, right? So we actually take a fingerprint of your NRIC, so we don't actually store that information. So we follow all these data management guidelines, and we think creatively out of the box. How do we identify people without actually storing the PII information? And how do we manage all this information on the cloud? And what we need to do, like for example, all the vulnerability assessment and pen testing, and so on. Yeah. So there are guidelines, and we follow them, even though it's COVID period, and we get all the people that we need, including like the support GoWare people. They have their team pen testers to really get this deployed in rapid time. So it's possible. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Zhao. So we have time for just one last question. This is a question from Y Yen. I'll allow you to speak now. Okay. Everyone's very shy. So, okay, I'll read out Yen's question. So, hi, thanks for sharing all the exciting experiences. I'm a graduating UX designer student, and a common trend I see with UX designers is how sometimes we are very into a feature and are unwilling to let go or move on. So what was done in the team, or what sort of communication was actually done during the projects enabled to let everything move and proceed smoothly? So maybe Patricia, you can share some thoughts on that.
Sure. So actually, is a very real thing, like especially when you have UX, tech, and then the business side. Everyone have their own interests in certain matters. So for UX, I mean, the question is how people that are unwilling to let go or move on, and what is communicated. Generally, user research data is used quite a bit. So we go down to the ground and understand what the users are feeling, thinking and doing, observing them. And those are tabled as observations and findings, and then subsequently as insights. I personally don't find it difficult if we are able to present it very clearly that these are something that users find frustrated in using, or something that will bring delight to them if they use it. So generally for business side of things or the technical side of things, we all aim towards the same goal, ultimately to create a good, delightful user experience, because ultimately the product is for them. Yeah, so that's how I mean we do to use data to help us with it.
Sheng, do you have any thoughts on this as well?
I agree with Patricia. Data never lies. Any preconceived assumptions or what that UX designer might have, once it is being measured, I think it will always come back to answer whether those preconceived notions were actually true. On support GoWare, it was a short lead time. I think when we talk about data, it will help on our day-to-day products, which have a longer lead time before we launch and after we launch, to look at the data to see if any certain design that we thought wouldn't work actually work. What we could do is also to A/B test it, to see if out of both designs that the designer thought works, which one actually worked better down to the data. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So to everyone, thanks for having all these questions come in. I'm sure our speakers had a good time answering all your questions as well. So we hope that this evening's webinar was an engaging session for everyone. So here are some quick hacks for you. So as mentioned earlier, we will be sharing the recording of this evening's webinar on the developer portal. So you can easily access it from the QR code on screen right now. And for the next part that we would like to share is that you will also see on screen now a short live poll that we would like your help with. So please click and let us know how useful you felt this evening's webinar was. So in the meantime, while everyone is doing this, we would love to hear from you on this webinar as well. So if you see the QR code on the left side of the screen, you can help us improve by doing this short survey via the QR code. And I saw that we still have some questions that we have not managed to answer. So if you want to continue asking our speakers questions or interact with the rest of the community, please join our StackX Meetup Telegram channel via the QR code on the right. So thank you again to our speakers and all our participants for joining us this evening. And do remember to look out on our Meetup page as well as our Telegram channel for all of our upcoming events. Thank you, everyone.